tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in music.
My name is Majestica. I am a cello and music educator based in Madison, Wisconsin. I come from a large family of 14. My parents are Hmong refugees. I am a Hmong American. And so my family doesn't come from a very high socioeconomic background. Um, and they don't know very much about music, but I did join my fifth grade strings program. So that was my first beginnings in music, and then I didn't really do too much because I didn't know very much about music at the time. So I kind of kept it a secret. I didn't have, the environment or the people around me who knew much about music either. So then it wasn't until eighth grade when I thought to myself, oh, like if I wanted to go to college for music, I'll probably need financial help. So I did go to the library at the time. I searched up online for musical scholarships. I didn't find anything, but I did find the Wisconsin Youth Symphony Orchestras. And so I did apply, I auditioned, I joined, and I'd say that's probably my true beginnings in my musical journey.
What inspired you to join the Wisconsin Youth Symphony Orchestra?
So when I did look up for scholarships, and that was one of the results on the page, um, I made sure to go through the entire website, make sure well, what is this program? What am I getting into? What do they offer? And at the time, I actually didn't have any experience similar to that, so it was very intriguing and very new to me. And I wanted to be just part of an orchestra and part of a musical experience. And it's probably one of the best decisions I had made at the time because, that was my foot in the door at the time.
What specific experiences or opportunities were you able to get through the Wisconsin Youth Symphony Orchestra?
Yeah, so with that program, I was able to apply to scholarships, and so I was able to participate in the youth orchestras and then their chamber program, and they also had scholarships for the private lesson instructions. So I applied to all three, I got them, and so that's when I started to take private lessons as well, and I studied chamber music and youth orchestra. And of course, through youth orchestra you meet a lot of other students like yourself who are interested in music, and they're interested in becoming better at their instrument, improving. I think that environment is really important, especially for someone who wants to pursue music.
What was your motivation that kept you pursuing music, even in the face of obstacles?
I think the greatest motivation has to be your love for it. The thing that kept me going was just loving music, playing music, being part of music. I think that's sharing music actually is probably number one, and so that will definitely keep anybody going as long as you can be confident about your why. And especially for me, just remembering why I'm doing this and why I'm here and sharing my music. I think that's the best thing that I could do for myself.
How do you deal with self-doubt along the way?
It's a hard one because even to this day, I do still experience a lot of self-doubt and imposter syndrome. But I have found that trusting the process and showing up no matter what is the best validation you can give yourself. So it's not, seeking validation from your teachers, your peers, but it's just showing up and making sure, you stick to your initial why and making sure that your actions that you take continue to align with your values. And At the end of the day, you know, effort is always rewarded. So if you don't see it now, you'll see it later. And just trusting that process, I think, is so important.
What routines do you do to help you improve the most?
So there's this recent thing I have students do all the time. I call it my golden 3 rule. So it's to make sure you practice a certain passage or a certain measure, and you want to make sure you're narrowing down the problem. So it's usually one note or between 2 notes, and you just want to make sure you're able to consistently play it correctly consecutively 3 times in a row. And if you make a mistake, then you start over at 1 again. And I've been having my students do this quite a bit, and it does really help. It also helps sets the tone for practice, intentional practice as well. So making sure that you're not just playing through as, you know, most of us like to do, but you're just focusing on a tiny little section and improving that part before moving on. I do see value in playing the entire piece every now and then, but really making sure you micromanage some parts that are really important. And the reality is, if you don't know how to practice, it'll be hard for you to go very far, especially in music, but in anything actually. Making sure you have good practice habits and they're ingrained from a very young age is the best you can do.
For students, how would you recommend approaching a new piece through intentional practice?
I'd probably say don't start at the beginning, but I think it's important to understand the format of the piece and the song. So knowing when a certain phrase or if a certain part comes back again, you'll know, like, okay, I actually only have to practice that once really well because it'll just come back again in the piece. And so just making sure you know the format and you're sectioning the piece so that you're able to check mark whether you've gone through those areas and how many times you have, and this way you're breaking everything down a little bit in more manageable sections, and before trying to play the entire thing. And again, this kind of prevents yourself from just playing mindlessly again and again and again.
Can you recount your own journey applying to music school? What's the process you took?
For most students, it will usually be that you are beginning to think about college. I'd say, maybe sophomore, but mostly junior year. You kind of want to narrow down, like, what schools you want to go to. And if you're able to, try to visit those places ahead of time. And if not, the day of your audition. So sometimes I did a bit of that as well, for convenience. I also tried to take a lesson with the teacher I was hoping to study with, and I think this is extremely important, especially so that it's a good fit. You don't want to get stuck with a teacher that you don't see eye to eye with, so it's very important to meet them, see what their teaching style is, whether it's compatible with your learning style, and see if you like their philosophy and how they teach, their approach to teaching, how they speak to you. It's very important. I think probably the most important thing you should be looking for when you're applying to a music school. So but yeah, and I'd say try not to apply to too many. I did in my undergrad. While auditioning for my undergrad, I applied to, I think, 5 or 6, and I'd say that's already too much. If I were to recommend, I'd cap it off at 4. This way you're not auditioning at a new school every single weekend, because everyone's busy, and it's just stressful to keep up, senior life with auditions every weekend, trying to meet teachers, trying to get lessons in. And at the time, I was also changing my technique, so it just was a really bad time for me to be doing like 6 auditions. So I definitely had to make the choice to cut the last 2. So I only auditioned to 4 actually. So.
Do you have any advice for finding scholarships, school specific, community, or general?
I'd say definitely always ask the organization or music program you're planning to audition or apply to. See what scholarships they already offer, and of course apply there. You have better chances of getting a scholarship at a program that you're applying to. The other ways you can think or look for scholarships is to look for more niche type of scholarships. So, whether that's academic, so if you have good grades, if you excel in a certain area, try to look for scholarships in that area, and in the community. So, for example, that might be like, Rotary. Yeah, for Rotary Foundation, for example, it's like a community type of scholarship, and they do work with seniors in high school, and they do provide ongoing scholarships in general. So just finding organizations like that in the community, you'll have a bigger chance of gaining or winning those scholarships versus like if you did like random scholarships online that gave you like $100 here, $100 there. There's like just so many people applying to those, and I actually applied to many of those as well, but I didn't get those as much as the local ones and the scholarships that were part of programs that I was aiming for.
Is there any general application advice you give for anything you need to submit? What to include in your responses, performances?
I'd say just be true to yourself. Always write in your own voice. Don't try to sound like anyone else. I actually remember back in the day, I had a friend read over my essays, and she thought, like, I'm not getting into any schools or the schools that I wanted to get into. Let me help you. And she just started, writing over my essay what she thought would be better. And I just, want to remind myself and everyone else, just write in your own voice. Don't take anyone else's words. Your story is powerful. Your voice is powerful. And even, let's say, my friend, for example, wasn't convinced, other people may be. So just stay true to yourself. Make sure you know why you're writing down the things you're writing down, and your story matters. So that's in your essays, just make sure you're writing your story, and your writing style also is very unique to you. So for example, I have a very colloquial writing style. It's definitely not very academic, I'd say, but it's very unique to me, and if someone were to read it, they'd know, oh, this is Majestica.
How do you deal with pressure when you perform?
That's a hard one because I don't think I don't know if there's an actual way to overcome them except just to deal with it while you're in performance. But things like keeping the making sure you're using the adrenaline elsewhere. So if it's like running in place right before the performance, or you're doing jumping jacks, you're keeping the fingers moving, you're doing deep breaths, just to make sure the energy is still there, but it's also being the excess energy is also being used. And so I just do your best. That's all I can say.
Are there any unique challenges you encountered as an Asian American woman in a white, male-dominated space? If so, how did you overcome them?
Not too sure if they were unique to me necessarily as an Asian or a woman in this space. but I am lucky enough to say that if I experienced those challenges, it didn't feel like it was because of my race or my gender. And to this question, I do want to say though that if you're able to, do try to curate your experience to what you want. So in my experience, I'm from the Midwest, and there isn't much diversity here. All of the people of color, we really do have to stick together. And so I made sure while in my search of like music programs and music schools and even teachers, that it had the diversity that I wanted, it had the community that I wanted, and so I just really like engineered my experience to be what I wanted it to be, and that really does help end up shaping my experience as well. And so I would encourage, if you're able to, really pick and choose what the spaces you enter and the energy you accept into your own experience as well.
Is there any fundamental technique that you notice cello students tend to struggle with?
I do see quite a bit long tones, for example, and I did have a teacher who stressed that with me quite a bit, and so now with my own students I do make sure that every lesson they begin with just long tones, and just creating a very open, warm, beautiful sound. I think actually it can be a struggle for a lot of bow players, string players, but especially cellists. So if you're a cellist, really make sure you're putting more care into your open strings, putting a metronome on, seeing how many beats you can put into your long bows, and making sure that the sound stays the same, the volume stays the same throughout the entire bow. And I do like to challenge my students a bit. Sometimes I tell them to do 20 beats per bow, 25, go as slow as possible, but you're not changing the tone quality at all. It stays consistent. I'd say that's probably a very basic technique that a lot of cellists can work on from the very beginning.
As someone from the Midwest, considering University of Wisconsin-Madison, what have you enjoyed about the music program there specifically?
I'd say if you're considering, definitely the orchestra program is pretty nice. They recently did get a I'd consider him new, but he's not really new anymore. He's new because he just came in when I was about to leave, but a new orchestra director. He's really great. So, and if you know the teacher or the professors that you want to study with, they're all really great over there. I know that the musicology program there is really great. The music theory program as well, the graduate music theory program is really good there. Strings program, awesome. It's just a really strong program in general. So yeah, I'd say look forward to the orchestra, look forward to meeting new people, look forward to the professors you'll meet.
Would you recommend taking a gap year before going to a specialized music school?
So I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. I think it's a really good idea, especially if depending on your reasons. If you want to just experience life, I think that's awesome. I think you should totally do that. I know if you meet professors, they might not want you to do that, just because obviously they want you to come to their school. They want you to be in their studio. But as someone who's not in a program, and I'm not advertising anything, if you want to take a gap year, I'd say totally go for it. But just be sure that when you're ready to come back, you have the skills still in place, and you have your why still in place as well. So just make sure you're able to come back strong if you do take a gap year.
What is your favorite piece?
So back when I was searching, or actually, I was looking for a reason to love classical music. And what I did was, I listened to a lot of music, which I would always recommend everyone to do. But I fell in love with the Weinberg Cello Concerto. Just the first measure actually did it for me, but I just really love that concerto. And when I was in high school, I think I used to listen to that every single day, and it's just, for me, it really touched my heart. And if I do listen to it nowadays as well, I just love it. I love it so much. So Weinberg Cello Concerto, I'd say, is probably my favorite, and one of the reasons why I fell in love with classical music.
Do you have any tips for current volunteer music tutors?
I think it's especially in the volunteer world, it's easy to feel like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I really helping these students out? And I'd say, remember why you chose to do this, and to the students that are maybe hard to teach, if they love music, stick with them. If they love what they do, stick with them. Even through their hard days, everyone has bad days, and it can be really hard to teach a certain student sometimes, but especially if you have the privilege to go to teach them for many years, you'll get to see their growth, and I think that's very rewarding. So even the hard ones that are hard to teach, just stick with it. And if you need to, always put your foot down. Don't take any is what I'm gonna say, okay? Making sure if students come to lessons unprepared, or they're not taking it seriously, just having a conversation with them, just to refresh, and so you guys can see eye to eye again. Why are you here? Why do you want to learn? Do you enjoy what you're doing? And if so, then making rules. And for me especially, I did have to start making studio rules, so that students can start showing up. And I think that's important to do. And even as a volunteer, I think it's okay to do as well. Especially with the organization, it's okay, I think, to bring up to organizers that, hey, this isn't working, and this is a problem I'm having, and this is what I'm going to do going forward, and to see if it matches with the organization's values and the direction they're heading in.
Any last advice you want to leave with our musicians here today?
Practice. Listen to a lot of music. Don't be one of those students that show up, and they don't know a certain piece. Actually, I think it's funny. I've met wind players who know more string repertoire than string players who do. So just continue to listen to a lot of music, explore, be curious, ask a lot of questions, and share your story. That's what I want to say.